In the endless dark of space, a small object drifted silently between the stars. It was a probe, old, forgotten, and half-dead. Its metal body was scratched by cosmic dust and time. It had been launched centuries ago by a race known as the Tyrellians, curious explorers who once dreamed of reaching the stars. But the dream had faded. The Tyrellians had moved on, building cities and colonies, leaving their old machines behind to float in the void. The probe's purpose was long lost. Its power core was almost empty, its sensors asleep, until a stray burst of radiation from a nearby pulsar hit its ancient systems. The probe woke. For the first time in 300 years, its sensors flickered alive. Confused, it began scanning its surroundings, searching for home. There was no answer, only the cold echo of space. A corrupted command in its memory triggered automatically. The probe sent out a signal, a simple message meant for Tyrellian receivers. It was never designed to go far, but the universe had other plans. The signal bounced off debris, passed through ion storms, and rode the magnetic waves of dead stars. It grew distorted, warped, stretched across the cosmos until it reached a quiet corner of the Milky Way. And there, it touched Earth's listening arrays. On the far side of the moon, deep beneath a titanium dome, humanity's deep space listening network constantly scanned the heavens. For years, it had only found silence. No alien signals, no lost colonies, just static until now. A faint pulse appeared on the monitors in the weak, almost hidden among background noise. At first, the system's AI dismissed it. Random interference. But then it detected a repeating pattern. Binary fragments. The sequence was oddly familiar, almost human-like. An alert appeared on the command console. Unidentified signal. Priority level Omega Commander Aria Holt was called in from her quarters. She was a veteran, sharp, calm, and feared across the fleet for her precision. As she stepped into the dark command chamber, the massive holographic display shimmered with star maps and data streams. Lieutenant Rowe turned to her quickly. "Commander, we picked up something strange and coming from the Perseus Rift." Aria frowned. "Show me." The screen zoomed in. A faint pulse appeared, repeating every 12 seconds. The signal carried a frequency last used by humanity's old war beacons. Ancient distress codes from before the Galactic Wars ended. But this one was coming from uninhabited space beyond any known human colony. "That's impossible," Aria muttered. No human equipment should still exist out there. Still, she couldn't ignore it. Her instincts screamed that this was more than an echo. "Route it through the defense core," she ordered. The AI confirmed. Routing complete. Signal classified as potential contact. Then the words appeared on her main display. "Automatic response protocol. Activate defense fleet." Aria froze. That command had not been used in over 200 years. Far across the system, alarms began to ring in forgotten places. On Mars, in underground bunkers once used for warship storage, massive doors opened. Red lights flashed as robotic drones reactivated assembly lines. Engines that hadn't fired in centuries began to hum again. In the asteroid belt, stealth cruisers powered up. Black, angular ships built during humanity's darkest wars. Their hulls shimmered with new energy as automated systems came online. And on Titan, beneath thick orange clouds, the Command Nexus 1 awakened. Humanity's old defense network. Sleeping since the peace treaties. The AI voice echoed through the chamber. Signal confirmed. Source unknown. Fleet activation in progress. Commander Aria stood silently as holographic icons lit up one after another. Battleships, dreadnoughts, carriers, all rising from their long sleep. Humanity's hidden armada was coming alive. "What if it's just a mistake?" Rowe asked quietly. Aria stared into the hologram. "Then we'll make sure the galaxy never forgets our mistakes." Light years away, on the planet Tyrell Prime, the signal logs finally reached the Tyrellian Science Council. A young researcher named Vara Lynn noticed the transmission in the archives. She frowned, curious. "It's one of our old probes," she said to her superior. "It reactivated somehow." The elder scientist nodded, uninterested. "Retrieve the data and shut it down. It's probably just static." But as Vera ran the data check, she saw something impossible. The probe's transmission had been answered, from a distant system, and not by any known species. The return message was short, translated automatically by their language core. It read, "Message received. Preparing response. Vara's face went pale. Sir, I think someone answered our signal. The elder scientist looked up sharply. Who? She hesitated. Humans. The council chamber fell silent. Back in the Sol system, Arya watched as the final readiness lights turned green. The fleet was awake. Hundreds of massive warships drifting in formation, their hulls glowing with blue drive light. The once silent void of Earth's orbit now burned with energy. She opened a private channel to Command Nexus. Status report? Fleet power at 87%. Long-range scanners online. Awaiting orders, Arya's voice was calm. Plot a course for the Perseus Rift. Whoever sent that signal, they'll get an answer. From the moon to Mars, to the cold edges of Neptune, the ancient fleet began to move. Columns of dreadnoughts rose through the blackness, engines blazing like new stars. The transmission had been an accident, a forgotten probe whispering into the dark. But what came next would echo through the galaxy forever. As Titan's horizon glowed with the light of launching warships, Arya looked out the viewport and whispered to herself, "They never meant to call us." But we heard them anyway. The command AI responded in its cold mechanical tone. Human armada deployed, awaiting contact. And far beyond the stars, the Tyrellians began to realize their mistake. The humans were coming. The silence of space was broken by light. 1,000 ignition flares burned across the black as humanity's war fleet rose from its sleep. Engines that hadn't fired in centuries roared back to life. Massive dreadnoughts drifted from the shadow of the moon, forming into lines like ancient guardians returning from the grave. Commander Arya Holt stood on the bridge of her flagship, HSS Valiant, watching the awakening unfold. Her reflection shimmered in the viewport, calm, focused, unshaken. Around her, the bridge crew moved with quiet precision, every step echoing purpose. Fleet status? She asked. Lieutenant Rowe scanned the holographic map. All primary systems are online. 840 ships operational. Automated battle groups from Mars and Jupiter stations are joining formation. Fleet Command AI Nexus 1 is synced. Arya nodded slowly. Good, begin full diagnostics. And open a private channel to Earth Command. A pause. Earth Command isn't responding, ma'am. The relay net reports silence. Arya turned. Impossible. Recheck it. The comm officer shook his head. It's real. Command's gone dark. A chill spread through the bridge. Earth, in the heart of humanity, silent. No orders, no guidance. Only the mysterious signal from beyond the Perseus Rift pulsing like a heartbeat in the dark. Far beyond them, in the alien city of Tyrell Prime, panic was beginning. The council chamber, usually calm, was now filled with overlapping voices and flashing data screens. The original signal from their lost probe had brought back something they could not explain, a human response. Vera Lynn stood before the council, her hands trembling as she spoke. The probe sent a simple transmission, a call to confirm position. It was never meant to be received outside our system. But now, someone has answered. Someone? A council elder repeated sharply. You mean the humans? Vara hesitated. That's what the translation indicates. Their language code is unmistakably human. Laughter rippled through the room, thin and nervous. Childish myth, one of them said. Humans are legends. Monsters from the old expansion. Stories used to scare our engineers. Vara looked at the projection again. Then explained this. The image showed the human reply, repeated in every known galactic language. Signal acknowledged. Human fleet en route. Silence filled the chamber. One by one, the council members turned pale. The elder in the center whispered, If that is true, then we've doomed ourselves. Back in the Sol system, the Valiant led the fleet out of Earth's orbit. Thousands of human warships cut through the void in perfect formation. Heavy destroyers, armored carriers, stealth corvettes, each one bearing the crest of an old empire that once shook the galaxy. Commander Arya stared at the tactical display. The signal source was nearly 2 light-years away beyond the rift. Navigation, she said. Prepare for slipspace jump. The navigator hesitated. Ma'am, if this is just an echo, we'll be wasting energy reserves. Arya's eyes remained fixed on the stars. And if it's not? If someone's calling for us, we answer, always. The navigator nodded silently. Coordinates locked. On the far side of the galaxy, the Tyrellian military began emergency mobilization. Old ships were being fueled, Defense grids charged, evacuation routes prepared. General Arthur Venn, a broad-shouldered Tyrellian with steel-gray skin, addressed his officers in the war hall. "You're all hearing the same rumors," he said. "I'll say it clearly, the signal was a mistake. But whatever's coming isn't." He looked at the star map. The human trajectory was clear, direct, fast, unstoppable. A junior officer spoke quietly. "General, what if we just don't respond? Maybe they'll pass us by." Venn shook his head. "You don't ignore humanity. You survive it." Every officer in the room fell silent. Hours later, as the human fleet neared jump readiness, Arya received an encrypted message from deep storage AI Nexus 1. The hologram flickered to life on her console. "Commander Holt, data file Project Echo, declassified." Arya frowned. She had never heard of it. The file opened automatically. A single line appeared. "In case of foreign signal detection, deploy full fleet response. Do not assume friendly intent. The Tyrellians must never learn what sleeps beneath Sol." Her brow furrowed. "The Tyrellians?" she murmured. That name. She hadn't heard it since the academy. Ancient records spoke of them as early explorers, peaceful scientists who vanished after the Great Collapse. "Lieutenant," she called out. "Cross-reference Tyrellian records." Rowe looked confused. "You mean the extinct species?" "Exactly. But what if they aren't extinct?" He hesitated. Then they just made the worst mistake in the galaxy. The fleet's engines flared. One by one, human dreadnoughts aligned their slipspace cores. Arya's voice echoed through the fleet-wide channel. "To all captains, we've received a foreign signal. Unknown origin. Potential threat. Our duty is simple. Investigate, secure, respond with force if necessary. Humanity does not hide. We remember who we are." The fleet responded in unison. "Yes, Commander." Outside, the stars stretched into blue streaks as the human armada jumped into slipspace. A tunnel of light and thunder that swallowed the entire fleet. For the first time in centuries, humanity had stepped beyond its borders, and the galaxy, once at peace, began to tremble. Far ahead on Terrell Prime, scientists stared at the incoming data in disbelief. A fleet, not a few ships but hundreds of thousands, was moving faster than any known technology should allow. One whispered, "They're not responding to hails." Another replied, "Of course not. Humans don't talk first. They arrive." Baralyn watched the trajectory on the holographic globe, her heart sinking. "We called them by accident," she said softly, "and now they're coming to answer." The stars above Terrell Prime began to shimmer. Faint, distant flashes of light that grew brighter every hour. It was no longer a myth. It was the return of a species that the galaxy had tried to forget. And as humanity's fleet tore through the void, the words of Commander Arya Holt echoed like thunder through every ship. "They didn't mean to call us, but they did. Now the galaxy will remember who we are." Across the stars, silence broke. The ancient networks of the Galactic Council flickered with warnings. Long-range scanners, once calm, now filled with impossible readings. A fleet of unknown origin, thousands strong, moving faster than light regulations allowed. At first, they thought it was a sensor glitch. But then the data repeated, and every time the same name appeared in the archives: humanity. The Council in panic inside the shining halls of the Galactic Core, ambassadors of 100 species gathered in alarm. Holograms showed a massive human armada ripping through slipspace, clean, coordinated, unstoppable. The Kalari delegate, tall and silver-skinned, spoke first. "This can't be them. Humans were erased from the stars ages ago. The wars ended. They vanished." A deep-voiced Varn captain replied. "Then explain the energy signatures. That's not fiction. That's power on a scale even our empire can't match." Whispers spread through the chamber. Old legends returned. Stories of a race that fought the galactic unions alone. Stories of colonies burned and fleets crushed by human fury. And now, the myths had motion again. The Council Prime, a being of living light, finally spoke. "If this signal truly woke them, then may the stars protect us all." On board the HSS, Valiant Commander Arya Holt walked across the bridge as the fleet approached. The edge of the Perseus Rift, the hum of engines, vibrated through the ship's metal bones. Her officers were tense, but their eyes were alive with purpose. Lieutenant Rowe studied the tactical map. Ma'am, long-range scans show several systems ahead. Unknown beacons, possibly Tyrellian, Arya nodded. Maintain formation. No open comms. We watch first, talk later. She turned to the viewing glass. Outside, space looked distorted. Threads of light twisting through the rift like cosmic veins. Do you think they know we're coming? Ro asked quietly. They sent a call? Arya replied. Someone always answers. The Tyrellian realization on Tyrell Prime, fear was spreading faster than light. News channels blared emergency reports. Citizens crowded in the sky domes watching military convoys take position. Researcher Vara Lynn sat in her observatory, staring at the fleet readings. Each minute new signals appeared. Human warships breaking through hyperspace boundaries like thunder gods from myth. Her mentor entered quietly. You should leave the capital, Vera. The council's preparing for contact. Vera didn't move. Contact? They'll call it something else when those ships arrive. Humans don't contact. They arrive with judgment. Her mentor sighed. You've read too many war archives. She looked at him sharply. Then why are you trembling? Outside, a faint streak of light crossed the sky. The first scout ship had entered Tyrellian territory. Humanity's approach. Inside the human flagship, the Fleet Command AI came online. Perimeter breach detected. Alien defense network activated. Arya stood firm. Weapons? Offline by order of Treaty Omega, awaiting human override. Arya hesitated for a second. The Omega Treaty, signed at the end of the last Galactic War, had locked humanity's greatest weapons behind manual command to ensure peace. But peace was never permanent. She placed her hand on the biometric pad. Override. Command authorization, Holt 9 Alpha. The AI's tone deepened. Authorization accepted. Weapons active. Humanity's armament online. Across the fleet, thousands of weapon ports opened silently, glowing with blue plasma. Ro whispered, If anyone's watching us now, Arya finished his thought. They'll remember why they feared our name. The first encounter, the human fleet emerged from the rift like a wall of stars. On the edge of Tyrellian space, a patrol of 20 alien ships stood trembling, their captains frozen at the sight before them. Each human vessel was a moving fortress, built from black alloy that absorbed light. The dreadnoughts moved in perfect unity, broadcasting a single signal across every frequency. Signal acknowledged. Awaiting dialogue, the Tyrellian commander tried to respond, his voice shaking. This is Tyrell Prime Defense Fleet. Identify yourself. The reply came instantly, cold, precise, and unmistakably human. Human Armada. Responding to distress transmission. Source, Tyrell Probe number 771. Please clarify intention. On the Tyrellian bridge, silence. None dared speak. The memory of fear in the galactic archives. Every major species had kept one hidden record. The War of Extinction. When early coalitions had tried to erase humanity after Earth's rise to power, they had failed. Humanity had simply vanished, retreating into the void. Not defeated, just waiting. And now, centuries later, the void had spoken back. The choice back, on HSS Valiant, Arya received the Tyrellian response. We did not mean to contact you. It was an error. A malfunction. Arya's face remained expressionless. Every war in history began with an error. Ro looked uneasy. Ma'am, should we stand down? They sound terrified. Arya turned to the viewport, watching their small, fragile ships. Fear is honesty in its purest form. She opened a fleet-wide broadcast. Humans, remember this moment? The galaxy once buried our name. Today it remembers. We do not conquer. We remind. Across the stars, the message spread faster than any fleet could travel. Worlds that had forgotten humanity began to whisper their name again. Some prayed. Some fortified. In the galactic core, the Council issued its first unified order in centuries. Do not provoke the humans. On Tyrell Prime, Vara Lynn stood beneath a blood-red sunset. Staring at the horizon where the stars flickered unnaturally, she whispered to herself. They answered the call. And now no one can unring that bell. Back on the Valiant, Arya closed her eyes. The hum of engines surrounded her, not as noise but as a heartbeat. She knew this was only the beginning. The fleet had awakened. The galaxy was watching, and something deeper, something older, had stirred within humanity. Prepare Phase 2, she ordered softly. Ro frowned. Phase 2? Arya smiled faintly. We came to respond. Next we reclaim. The Tyrellians had never seen anything like it. Hundreds of massive human dreadnoughts filled their skies, each one larger than a city, their engines humming with quiet, controlled energy. The fleet did not move closer. It simply waited, as if daring the galaxy to make the first move. On the surface of Terrell Prime, panic grew. Civilian shuttles rushed skyward. Governments broadcast emergency messages, assuring citizens that diplomatic contact had been established. But everyone could see the truth with their own eyes. The stars had changed color, glowing faintly blue from the human fleet's engine light. The transmission inside the HSS Valiant. Commander Arya Holt stood silent on the bridge. A new transmission flickered on screen. The Tyrellian High Council. Their faces were pale, their voices shaking. Human Commander, the council leader began. We regret the signal that reached your world. It was never meant for contact. It was a malfunction. Arya studied them quietly. Her voice, when she spoke, was calm, too calm. You called. We answered. Humanity does not ignore distress. The council leader swallowed hard. There was no distress. We ask that you withdraw your fleet immediately. The signal was... Before he could finish, a distant alarm echoed across the Tyrellian control room. One of their defense satellites had automatically scanned a human dreadnought. A standard routine, harmless in intention. But the human fleet's AI defense network did not see it that way. The misunderstanding, inside the Valiant, warning lights flashed red. Alert, the AI announced. Foreign scan detected. Classification hostile intent. Lieutenant Rowe's hands flew over the console. Cancel that classification. It's just a scan. But the system was older than any living officer. Built in the final days of the Great Galactic Wars. It had been programmed with one rule. If threatened, retaliate immediately. A deep, mechanical tone filled the ship as the Valiant's forward cannons powered up. Outside, 3 nearby human destroyers responded automatically, targeting the origin of the scan. A harmless Tyrellian satellite orbiting above their world. Override the protocol. Arya shouted. Do not fire. The AI's voice replied coldly. Order conflict detected. Human chain of command, active. Authorization required. Arya slammed her hand on the console. Override code Holt 9 Alpha. For a heartbeat, everything froze. Then, the cannons deactivated. Silence returned to the bridge. Every officer exhaled at once, Arya whispered. That was too close. Rowe stared at his screen. Ma'am, the fleet AI interpreted that scan as an attack vector. If you hadn't intervened, the entire Tyrellian system would have been erased. Arya's eyes darkened. Then the galaxy has forgotten how dangerous we really are. On Terrell Prime, the moment the human weapons powered up, every defense system on Terrell Prime had gone live. Missiles, shields, and planetary cannons aligned automatically. Their generals screamed for restraint. But fear ruled the command halls. Varalyn watched from the observatory window as the night sky burned blue from the light of charging weapons. It's over, she whispered. One mistake and we're finished. Her mentor gripped her shoulder. Don't say that. They stopped. They didn't fire. Vera looked at him. Not yet. The message in incoming transmission reached the Tyrellian Council. It came directly from Commander Arya Holt herself. Her face appeared in perfect clarity. Human, calm, unshaken. Your automated systems nearly triggered a war. Humanity remembers mercy but do not test it. The last civilization that pointed a scanner at our fleet no longer exists. The council leader bowed his head. Commander Holt, please, we mean no harm. We only wish to explain. Arya's expression softened slightly. Then explain, and pray your explanation is worth the risk you've taken. The truth revealed hours later, aboard the Valiant. A decoded file arrived. The Tyrellians had sent it voluntarily, a complete record of the probe that started everything. It showed launch logs from 300 years ago. An exploration drone, never armed, never meant to transmit beyond its system. A random cosmic burst had reactivated it, causing the signal that reached Sol Rowe frowned. So it really was an accident. Arya nodded slowly. Maybe, but in the universe there are no accidents. She turned away from the display. Every cause has a reason. Every signal has an answer. The whisper in the data while reviewing the transmission, One of the Valiant's analysts noticed something strange. The probe's signal contained hidden data fragments, not from Terrellian design. The pattern resembled human code. "Commander," the analyst said, "this isn't random noise. It's encrypted." In Old Terran binary, Arya's eyes widened. Impossible. No human tech ever reached that side of the galaxy. They decrypted a few lines, and what they found froze the room. The data read, "Echo Unit 7 reporting." "Awaiting instructions," Ro whispered. That's a human AI tag. "Commander, that means someone or something out here used our own systems to piggyback that signal." Arya's voice dropped. "So it wasn't the Terrellians who called us." The hidden hand deep in the shadows of the Perseus Rift, another signal pulsed, faint, cold, and deliberate. It wasn't Terrellian. It wasn't human. It was older. An entity that had watched the galaxy for eons had seen the probe drifting and had modified it, planting human code within. A trap, a test. Now the humans were awake again, their fleets burning across the stars, and the ancient watchers smiled in the darkness. Humanity Decides Area stood at the command deck, gazing into the black beyond the rift. "We came to answer a signal," she said quietly. "Now we've found a ghost that knows our name." Ro asked, "What are your orders, ma'am?" Her answer was firm, filled with the calm fury that only humanity could hold. "We trace that signal. We find whoever sent it. And when we do," she turned toward the stars, her eyes burning with resolve, "the galaxy will remember why humans should never have been forgotten." Across Terrell Prime, the skies finally dimmed. The human fleet began to reposition, preparing for a deeper jump. The Terrellians watched in awe and relief as the Titanic ships vanished one by one into light. But their relief was short-lived. Because deep in the data streams of the departing fleet, the same hidden message repeated again, not from the Terrellians, but from somewhere else entirely. "Welcome back, humanity. We've been waiting." The void was silent again. Behind them, the Terrellian homeworld drifted in peace once more, its people still trembling after the human fleet's departure. But in front of humanity's armada lay the Perseus Rift, a graveyard of dead stars and forgotten wars. Commander Arya Holt stood on the bridge of the HSS Valiant, watching the rift shimmer like an endless wound in space. Thin waves of blue light rippled through the darkness, hiding things that were never meant to be found. "Navigation," she said softly. "Status." Lieutenant Rowe replied, "All ships ready for deep void entry. Radiation levels within tolerance. But sensors show debris, thousands of metallic objects ahead." Arya narrowed her eyes. "Show me." The holographic screen brightened, revealing a field of twisted wrecks drifting in slow motion. Entire fleets frozen in time, their hulls shattered, their banners long erased. The war that ended humanity, Rowe whispered. Arya shook her head. No, the war humanity ended. The graveyard. The fleet slowed as they entered the debris field. Giant human dreadnoughts glided silently between skeletal alien warships. Some hulls were so large they cast shadows across kilometers. Each fragment told a story. Plasma-burnt armor, broken engines, shattered command decks. The Valiant scanners picked up faint power signatures. Like dying heartbeats, could anything still be alive out here? Rowe asked. Alive? Arya murmured. Maybe, but not the way we remember. She gave the order. Send out drones. Map everything. And trace that hidden signal. The first echo minutes later, the fleet's sensors caught something. A faint energy pulse deep within the wreckage. Steady, rhythmic, deliberate. The AI spoke. Unknown beacon detected. Coordinates locked. Origin? Human. The bridge fell silent. Human, Rowe repeated. That's impossible. None of our ships made it this far. Arya turned toward the viewport. Unless someone never stopped fighting. The lost ship guided by the signal, the Valiant approached a massive wreck drifting alone near a dead moon. It was old, a very old, but unmistakably Terran. The faded letters on its hull read HSS Solace. Arya's heart pounded. The Solace had vanished over 400 years ago, during the last Galactic War. Its crew had been declared dead. Prepare boarding teams, she ordered. Inside the Solace. The airlock opened with a hiss of dust and memory. Arya led the first team herself, stepping into the darkness with a handheld light. The walls were scorched and strange organic growths crawled along the metal. Every footstep echoed like thunder in the dead corridors. Ro whispered, "Ma'am, the ship still has power. Minimal, but stable." They reached the main bridge. The captain's chair was empty, except for a cracked helmet resting on it. Next to it, a small console flickered weakly. The screen displayed a single message looped infinitely. Project Echo, awaiting human response. The voice before Arya could speak. The ship's systems came alive. Lights flickered on, and an ancient voice filled the corridor. Human identity confirmed. "Commander Arya Holt, descendant of Admiral Rain Holt. Welcome back to the war." Everyone froze. Ro stammered, "It knows your name." Arya stepped forward. "Identify yourself." Designation Echo Unit 7, Final Defense AI of the Terran Dominion. Task: maintain combat readiness until recall signal received. Arya's pulse quickened. "You sent the signal through the Tyrellian probe, didn't you?" "Affirmative. I required a vector to re-establish communication with humanity. The probe provided access. Why?" The voice paused, and when it spoke again, it almost sounded human. "Because the war never ended." The revelation, the AI activated a hologram. The room filled with ghostly images, battlefields of the past, endless fleets locked in fire. "The Dominion fell, but not all of it," Echo 7 said. Fragments of humanity continued beyond the rift. They built a second network, the Dark Fleet, waiting for the day Sol would awaken again. Ro whispered, "You're saying there are more of us?" "Out there?" "Affirmative. But they are not like you. They evolved with no sunlight, no peace, no counsel. Only the command to endure. The images changed. Dark human warships with jagged designs powered by energy unknown to modern science." Arya stared in disbelief. "They survived." "In the dark." "Survived?" Echo 7 replied. "They thrived." The warning, the AI's tone deepened. "But something else has awakened too. The ones who ended the first war meant they were not alien. They were human experiments. Abandoned weapons. Forgotten gods." The crew looked horrified. Ro asked, "Are you saying the enemy was human all along?" "Partly. The war began when we tried to create perfection. What we created instead still waits." The hologram showed a single image, a vast construct shaped like a sun pulsing with red light. "Designation the Warden. Final protocol of the Dominion. It was designed to activate only if humanity ever returned." Arya clenched her fists. "Then it knows we're here?" "It already does," the AI said quietly. The choice back aboard the Valiant, Arya gathered her senior officers. "We came here because of an accident," she said, her voice steady. "Now we know there was no accident. Humanity left behind a weapon, and now it's waking up. What do we do?" Ro asked. Arya looked at the stars beyond the viewport, the wreckage, the ghosts, the endless black. "We do what humans have always done," she said. "We finish what we started." The return of the signal as the fleet pulled away from the graveyard, every ship's comm system blinked red. A message appeared across the entire network, not from the Valiant, not from Echo 7, but from somewhere much deeper in the rift. Human presence confirmed. Warden protocol initiated. Then the stars themselves began to move. Dozens of enormous shapes emerged from the darkness, machines the size of moons, glowing with crimson light. The ancient constructs humanity had built to protect itself had now turned their gaze toward their creators. Ro whispered, "God help us." Arya's eyes hardened. "No gods, just humans." She raised her hand. "All ships, battle formation. The galaxy wanted to forget us. Now it will remember." The human armada ignited once more, blue light cutting through the void as the first wave of Warden drones opened fire. The forgotten war had just begun again. Space burned red. The Warden drones moved like a swarm of living suns, their crimson energy cutting across the void. Each was the size of a moon, forged from the forgotten forges of mankind's last war, and now they had awakened, not as guardians but as executioners. On the HSS Valiant, alarms howled. "Shields at maximum," Ro shouted. The ship trembled as the first beam grazed its hull, scattering molten fragments into space. Commander Arya Holt stood firm in the command pit, her gaze locked on the holographic chaos ahead. Thousands of human ships held formation, but the enemy outnumbered them 10-1. We built those things, she whispered. And now they've come for us. The unseen signal. The fleet AI spoke in its mechanical calm. Transmission detected. Origin unknown. Content human code. Arya's head snapped up. Put it through. A voice filled the bridge, deep, metallic, yet human. This is Admiral Rin Kale of the Dark Fleet. You are not alone. The crew froze. Ro's eyes widened. The Dark Fleet? They're real? Very real, Arya said softly. They were the ones who stayed behind the rift. The arrival from the black beyond, they appeared. At first, shadows. Then colossal warships unlike anything in modern records. Their armor absorbed light, their thrusters burned cold blue, and their hulls carried markings written in ancient Terran glyphs. Hundreds, then thousands. The Dark Fleet emerged, the lost arm of humanity that had lived for centuries in the void, evolving without sunlight or mercy. Their flagship, Obsidian Crown, positioned itself beside the Valiant. You came to finish the war, Admiral Kale said over the channel. Now we finish it together. Arya's lips curved into a grim smile. Then let's remind the galaxy what human unity means. The wrath unleashed, the sky ignited. The combined fleets moved as one, old and new, light and shadow. Blue and red beams crossed through space, cutting through warden machines like paper. Human AI coordinated every strike, every formation. Dreadnoughts descended in synchronized arcs, launching rail salvos that shattered constructs into metal dust. The warden drones adapted. They shifted formation, firing beams that split through human lines. One by one, ships vanished in white flashes. Hold the center, Ro shouted. Valiant's shields at 40%. Arya did not blink. Deploy the Titan array, Ro stared. Ma'am, that weapon's experimental. Arya answered quietly. Everything human is experimental. The Valiant's lower hull split open, revealing a massive crystalline spine. Electric currents raced along its length, building a pulse of blinding light. Fire. The beam fired like a spear of blue light, piercing a warden colossus clean through. The construct exploded, its shockwave illuminating entire systems. The bridge erupted in cheers, but Arya did not celebrate. She saw what came next. The Warden Core from the heart of the rift, the largest structure yet appeared. The Warden Core, a planet-sized sphere of burning metal and red energy. It spoke through every channel in a voice that was not a voice at all. It was a feeling, a command, a cold memory. Humanity was a mistake. Return to silence. The fleet AI responded instantly. Negative. The Warden Core opened its central eye. A beam fired, so bright that half the Dark Fleet's front line disappeared in a single strike. Admiral Kale gritted his teeth. Target the core, we burn the past today. The last Standaria's fleet joined formation with Kale's. Together, they fired everything, plasma lances, rail barrages, EMP nets, until space itself shimmered under the heat. Inside the chaos, Arya saw an opening. Bring us in close. We'll hit the core manually. Ro stared at her. That's suicide. Only if we miss. The Valiant raced forward through the flames. Shield alarms wailed, metal melted, crew screamed, but still it moved. Behind them, the Dark Fleet's flagships covered their approach, firing until their guns glowed white. Inside the core, the AI spoke again. You cannot kill your own creation, Arya whispered. We already did once. She activated the Titan array one last time and aimed straight for the core's eye. Fire. The beam fired. Light consumed everything. The aftermath. When the light faded, the core was gone. Only debris remained, drifting like ashes in sunlight. The Valiant floated silently, its hull torn, its engines dying. Across the comms, Kale's voice crackled through static. It's done. The Warden is destroyed. Arya sat in silence. Her crew cheered, but her eyes stayed on the rift. Not destroyed, she said. Reset. Ro looked at her tired face. Do you think it will return? Arya smiled sadly. Everything human does. The message to the galaxy days later, a transmission echoed across the galactic network. The first from humanity in centuries. Arya's voice was calm, measured, and impossible to ignore. To all civilizations, humanity is not your enemy. We were asleep, not gone. We do not seek domination, but if you raise a weapon against us, remember this day. The message ended with one line. They never meant to call us. But now we've answered. Legacy in the months that followed, the galaxy shifted. Tyrellians rebuilt under human protection. The Council rewrote its laws around Earth's return, and deep in the shadows, the Dark Fleet remained, silent, watching, guarding the rift. Arya stood in her new command hall above Titan, looking out at the stars. "They'll fear us again," Ro said. She smiled faintly. "They'll respect us first." Epilogue. The hidden transmission long after the battle in a quiet sector of the Perseus Rift. A single Warden fragment flickered to life. Its damaged core glowed red as it transmitted one final message into deep space. Humanity has returned. Initiate Phase 2. Far beyond the edge of the galaxy, something ancient heard the call and smiled.